Hello everyone, Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It, and this week I saw the latest film from director Clint Eastwood and Richard Jewell, and I'll give you my thoughts after the jump. Real quick, if you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be one of the first to know. We're inching up there, we're getting there. We're on that road to 100, so once we do there, we'll start doing some fun things in the channel and giving some stuff away, all right? So let everybody know about the spot. Now on to my review. So if you haven't heard, Richard Jewell is a new film from director Clint Eastwood, which is always amazing to get new stuff from Clint because it sort of comes out of nowhere. He shoots in such a rapid succession that there's not enough time for cameras and information and leaks to happen about his films. But if you haven't heard, Richard Jewell is a new film with Paul Walter Hauser playing the lead role, Richard Jewell, about a gentleman who was in Atlanta, a security guard, who went from a hero to a suspect in the bombing of Atlanta at the Atlantic Games in, I believe, 96. It's just the mid 90s. It's funny because I was aware of this situation, but only in the fact that I knew a bombing took place during the Olympics. I knew the name Richard Jewell. I sort of remember the face. Got to remember in that age, I was 14, 15. I definitely wasn't on my radar. I was aware of the Olympic Games and I knew Muhammad Ali did the whole torch lighting thing. That's basically the things that I remember. But what I don't remember is them ever doing a retraction to say that he wasn't the person. My brain always thought that that's who it was. There was a bomber. This guy was the kid. The end. So this film kind of gives you the backstory of this young man at the time who was a bit of an oddball and led the police and FBI to think that he had something to do with the bombing when in fact he actually was responsible for saving a lot of people. Over 111 people were injured, but they would have been far worse had he not brought attention to the session. One person died. So here are my likes. One, the actor Paul Walter Hauser is phenomenal. He was last that I can remember seen in the Tanya Harding I Tanya film, but he is phenomenal in this. There's even a moment in the movie where Clint does this thing where Katie Couric is actually having an interview with Richard Jewell, and you can tell that it's far enough on camera, but you can tell that they're using actual footage of the actual interview. And he looks just like him. He manages to keep his mannerisms. And if you don't have any context of what Richard Jewell is like in real life, just seeing that shows you the one-to-one and what he does. But there's a lot of quiet anger, a lot of quiet pain, a lot of quiet confusion that he portrays on screen that I just think is fascinating to watch. It's a great character study from a person who just is a little off or a little odd or not the norm, but has a heart big as gold, and just got caught up into a situation that while he was the correct person, the hero, the world swallowed in on him. And I think he does a fantastic job of captivating and portraying all of that. I also think that the interaction between his character and Sam Rockwell, who Sam can do no wrong. Sam's great at anything, but I think the interaction between them two is what basically is the through line and character study of this film. This movie is a character study. And I think the two of them have a great chemistry together, both highs and lows, about two people who come from different worlds who are both. Sam Rockwell's character is also kind of broken and has gone on to do his own thing, and it just hasn't worked out. And just the attachment that he's had to Richard Jewell from a previous encounter has made their lives sort of ram back together at the perfect point in time to get Richard Jewell out of this situation. Kathy Bates is freaking Kathy Bates. She's flawless. She's great as the not overbearing mother, but she's the mother who's still been taking care of her little boy, as you will. But there is a scene where she gives a last ditch interview to the media about how much her kid means to her and how much this whole turmoil has happened. And it's heartbreaking. It's really well done. It's breathtaking. And I haven't gone back to see, I'm sure there is, because I think you do something this realistic, especially how Clint is with details and fact-based. I'm sure there is a copy of that interview that the mom actually gives out there somewhere because the media was there. But this recreation of it hit me hard, and I felt every minute of it. And lastly, what I think what really helps is the bringing the light of the situation. Like I said, I was vaguely aware of it, but I think this puts a film out there. I wish more people were seeing it, but I think this puts a film out there that allows people to know of that this homegrown hero who did what he thought was right to help people, and in turn got a lifetime of pain and ridicule and accusing because of his looks, his demeanor, what he's done in his past, his passion for the job, if you will. And I just wish that the vitriol that was spent to put this man under fire was the same that they used to exonerate him and put his name back in the media, saying, "Oh no, he had absolutely nothing to do with that." Fortunately, that's not how social media works. You know how media does. The story is more sensational when they're bringing a good person down than as opposed to bringing them back up. This movie does a good job of laying all that out. My dislikes, though, on the flip side of that, there's no real sense of rise or fall as far as a climax in this film. You get that sort of at the beginning with the bombing, but when you're doing a film that is based on real facts or based on true life, it's hard to fabricate things to make a film feel more film-worthy. And because of that, a lot of parts of this movie feel by the books, not in the fact that this was by the books as far as what the story is telling you, because the story is, you can't make this stuff up. But as far as the hero doing something, being broken, and then redeeming, that pattern is what happens with these type of biofilms. I think we have movies like Harriet or what we'll talk about later this rest of this year, Just Mercy. You have movies that are based on facts. It's hard to fabricate things to embellish the story. You basically have to stick to the one-on-ones. And for that, while this movie, I thought it was good, it's a character movie first. And so the plot or the rise and fall sort of wanes because of that. Another thing that I just didn't like, and this is a story writing beat, is there's a moment where Richard Jewell has a dream, a nightmare, about the bombing happening again. And this time he lands himself on the bomb and it blows up. I understand what that movie was, what it was trying to do in the film, is trying to show you that his brain is going through a lot of turmoil, and he's going through it, he's mental stress, and even though he's trying to hold a great fort and he's helping the police when he shouldn't be, but he thinks it's the right thing to do, but he's internally taking in a lot of things. I get why that scene is there. It just looks very and comes off very Hollywood-esque, and I just feel like that scene, that notion of being under duress is given without giving me a spoon-fed dream sequence in it. But that's my opinion. Lastly, not so much of a dislike as I know before this movie was released, there was this whole thing that came out from Kathy Scruggs, the character that Olivia Wilde plays. Her estate, because she has since gone on to pass, her estate has gone on to say that they don't like the representation that her character has in this film as being someone who uses her sexuality and sleeps with people to obtain information, which is sort of what I guess the film alludes to. I didn't get that, and I wouldn't have even had that in my brain had that not been put in front of me before going to see the film. I didn't get that. But where my problem comes in, and this is going to sound maybe a little callous, but it is really hard for me to care about the legacy of someone who has died when, while alive, they helped ruin a hero's legacy and life for their own personal gain. So it's difficult for me to, yes, if that's not what happened, cool. We embellish some things in the story. I understand why that would make you upset. However, you also ruined this man's life who was young and unfortunately died young. Not necessarily because of this, but I'm sure this extra strain, because he never really got over this, never got over this pain, never got over being pointed as like, oh, that's the bomber, even though he was no longer the bomber. But I think his health, he already had heart issues, but he probably wasn't checking in on it. And then this added stress on it just made it so his life. So I have a real hard time showing empathy for someone who did not show that same remorse for basically tarnishing or helping to tarnish and light the match to spread the fire that burned this man down. So those are my thoughts on Richard Jewell. I think it's a movie that everybody should see. Unfortunately, I know with so many movies coming out, it's one of those ones that go under the radar. But I think there's a great acting performance in it. I do think that when the Oscars come out, I'm hoping that Richard Jewell, Walter, gets a nomination, because I think he should be among those lists. Kathy Bates could as well as a supporting actress. I know she got a nom on one, either the Golden Globes or the SAG Awards. She's phenomenal too. But when you do my rankings, it was Once Is Enough, Play It Again, Sam, or Time Stone, I Never Need to See This Again. This is definitely a Play It Again, Sam. If for nothing else, like, I don't think the movie is that mind-blowing, but I think there's some great character moments, some great character studies in this moment. I think it's a heartfelt film that people need to get their eyes on, all right? So those are my thoughts. What did you guys think? Have you seen Richard Jewell? If you haven't, you should. If you have, let me know what you thought. Leave your comments in the comments below. If you want to hit us up on email, you can find us at hollywoodaLreadyDidIt@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter at HollywoodADI. We also have a podcast by the same name that is on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We are there. This last episode is going to be the last one for the year. We talked about Star Wars Rise of the Skywalkers. You can get our thoughts about that film over there, okay? But like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.